Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tenpenny Files. I'm your host, Dr. Sherri Tenpenny. Here on the Tenpenny Files, we dig into vital and often controversial discussions on topics that will challenge what you've been told and reveal what's been hidden. These compelling conversations will make you think, spark debate, and hopefully move you to action. Join me every day, but Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time to hear from authors and documentary filmmakers who have something important to say and have often been silenced or censored. Today's conversation is with my guest and my good friend, Celeste Solum, author of The Seven Thunders Revealed, Biblical Insights into the Powerful Part Lightning and Thunder Will Play in Prophetic Events. And her second book is Electromagnetic Protection Solutions, which covers supplements and foods that protect one from cosmic rays and 5 or 6G. But she's not here to talk about that today. What she's here to talk about is how health, technology, and governance have become one system. It's really, really creepy. And Celeste is the consummate researcher that digs into things where no one else dares to go, and talks about incredible things of great interest and really edgy topics, which is what this show is all about. So Celeste, welcome to the Tenpenny Files. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
It's a delight to be here, Sherri.
When did all this integration of technology by government into our healthcare, when did that begin? I think it was longer ago than what we thought.
Yeah, so there's going to be three pivotal dates. Believe it or not, in 1820 was the first time when they identified zoonotic disease. Those are diseases that are transmitted between people and animals. So that was the number one. And then the second one was at the Asilomar 1 conference. And that at that conference, there was a consensus to genetically modify all life on planet Earth. You're talking every human, every tree, every animal, every microbe, every bacteria, everything. And that was in 1975. And they started building state laws to reinforce what they wanted to do. And then in, let's see, believe it or not, Halloween 2005 is when it actually came down as the National Animal Identification System slash now known as traceability, which is mandatory, by the way, from the United Nations to the governments of the world, including the United States government, down to the states and even down to the county levels. And there are three pillars in this that are critical to know. Now, remember, this is 2005, and the three pillars are all property belongs to the government. It doesn't matter if it's chattel property, real property, or you. They consider that you are owned by the government or the global powers. The second one was the mandatory electronic identification of all biological life. That's why we're seeing nanobots. That's why we're seeing IP addresses in people, in plants, in animals. That's why we're seeing that, because that was the second mandate. And the third pillar is, well, we're seeing it now too, is 24/7 surveillance.
Wow. And you said there's three pillars of traceability. How do you define traceability?
Traceability is so basically the United Nations defined as really all life as products. That's why we've got the biocircular economy and all of these new terms coming up, is because they consider us products to be bought, sold, and done with. And there is a life cycle and an ecosystem for this for these products. And so there's a starting and then an end point. And then it used to be, have you heard cradle to grave? So it used to be cradle to grave. So at the end of the product, it was just done away with. Now, according to global mandate, all products must be recycled, torn apart into their individual building blocks, and reassembled into something else.
Is that what some of the organ harvesting stuff is about?
Yes, and actually, my mom just died, and I had to do the work for the death certificate, and she died in California. And she had her wishes were that she wanted to be cremated, and on there it says cremation via the way that we normally think, like the ovens, But there's hydrolysis, which is liquefying the body and then spraying it on crops and putting it back into the water supply. But the
Yeah.
one thing they don't take out is all the pharmaceuticals, pesticides, herbicides, all these chemicals. They don't take that out. But so that in a sense, my mom is being recycled. So it's a terrible thought, but pay attention to death certificates if someone you love has died, because this is on death certificates in various states right now. Washington State was the very first state to go for hydrolysis of human beings.
And so you say it's on the death certificate. Is that a choice on that you choose to do that, or what do you,
Yeah, you
what's
have to ask and
what's your,
say if you want cremation by fire, or if you, most people don't even know what hydrolysis is. And they might, all it is a little checkbox. And if you check that box, your loved one could be liquefied.
and I think that's only legal in because I wrote something about that. That was a thing that I think I wrote a Substack about it maybe last year. And it's not legal in all 50 states. There's only like half of the states that will allow that. Is that right?
It is growing in popularity. And as the global governance increases, what's happening is the reason they want hydrolysis and this recycling is because it's good for the planet. And they don't believe that cremation, they feel that because of the smoke and the ash and stuff, it is a contaminant to the planet. So they consider it a biohazard. So we will see more and more hydrolysis states
Because the
accepting
things
that.
that get to get recycled, right? And that's what they want to do with this. It's so gross.
And to make money off of it. So your loved one will be recycled, and some big corporation like Monsanto or something. I'm just saying, I don't know which companies deal with this. They're going to make millions, if not billions of dollars off of your loved ones.
Is that how all of this traceability and all of this integration got messed up with our healthcare records?
Yeah, so I actually was in a DHS meeting right after the Indonesian tsunami. And it was at that meeting that they decided to um, identify the living and the dead, because they had so many dead bodies at that point. That's why it will be inserted into you at either atomic or molecular level, and it will be an alphanumeric number that has a country code and an asset code. And like I said, that's traced. If you're a product, you're traced from the beginning. And now with recycling, there is no end. It just is, goes on and on and on.
How does that integrate in with transhumanism?
So with transhumanism, what they're doing is they started with genetic modification. Of course, I know your audience is up to speed on that, where they put, like in a tomato, they put insects or something. So it wasn't natural. It wasn't like two dogs mating and you come up with this new breed. It was two different distinct species. And then we started to get into the nanotechnology, and it was small enough that people really couldn't understand it. They didn't see it. It's not like two dogs that are mating or whatever, or even the tomatoes or with the insects. And then eventually they started to put nano robotics in, and each one of it, these are at the molecular size, and each one, like there's the ones that are have pinchers to hold the different properties that they're putting in. They're basically transforming humans. So what we've got going is original design, and then the populations right now of all species, biological species, are undergoing this transformation into a biohybrid. So you're part this and you're part that. And, it's kind of a philosophy that the Nazis used in Nazi Germany, demonize, the Jewish people, and then you can do anything. And then the final step is a cavitation or the hollowing out so that you basically just become a shell and then they're going to stuff you with robotics. It could be disembodied spirits, but something that does not take natural resources. So back in 2005, the mandate came from the United Nations that we were not to take anything from nature. That was the whole plan. That's what, if you want to put the sustainable goals in a nutshell, that's what it is, that we take nothing from nature. So you're going from a carbon-based life form created in the divine image of God to a silicon entity that they control and they can dispose of or recycle at will. So that's what basically transhumanism is doing. And right now we're at the place where they're kind of inserting into us technological things. It's more than just nanobots. There's lots of technology that they are inserting into biological life at this point.
How are they getting it into us?
So people think that the only way to get it in is through vaccination. But if you go to the Athena agenda, which is an official government document, it shows this picture. And this actually was a few years ago. The technology has exploded since then. But they said inhalers, lotion, shampoo. What are some of the other things? Anything you touch can transmit. As a matter of fact, last year in 2004, the United Nations took control to define all particles. And all particles, they say, so they all particles fall under the control of the United Nations, and they are transmissible and they are considered infective from this point and forevermore.
So is the point of what's kind of going on here, is it really a depopulation agenda? Or is it really converting humans into something that are less toxic to the environment?
Well, they're looking at it's twofold. One, yes, less toxic to the environment, but also um, you are not, forgot my thought there. Um, yeah, less toxic to the environment, I would say, in many, but don't forget, this is a religion to the people, the global elites, if you want to call them that. So this is very much has spiritual ramifications that they don't want you in God's kingdom. They want you in a synthetic virtual twin.
And what is that?
So a synthetic virtual twin is like a model, a computer model, an AI model, and you make an exact replica. So let's say I'm some brainy computer person and I'm taking Dr. Sherri and I'm making a model of her and I'm putting her in this world. And we'll be talking today about some of the danger, the frightening things that you have rights in the digital world, but you don't have rights in the physical world. And we have to be very careful because the politicians are very slick with their words. And so we think, oh, we're getting protection for this or that. But they're talking about the synthetic digital twin rights, but not your physical rights.
I think Todd Callender has talked about that a lot, about what does he call it? Homo, homobiogenesis, I think is what he calls it. And that they're creating a new person, a transhuman sort of entity. And one of the things that he said that was so disturbing to me about that, there's a lot of disturbing things, but he's like, all of our laws and our constitution, and particularly everything in the United States, is all based on me, the human being, me, the real man, the real person. And if we are now a transhuman or a robotoid sort of entity, and that robotoid person kills somebody, do any of our laws, as they're written now about the human being, do they apply or not apply to this new synthetic transhuman entity? Have you delved into that at all, Celeste?
Yeah, I just put something up on X this week, and it was in 2013. The Supreme Court did say that they didn't use the term original design, and I do that for a reason. But the DNA, our DNA, is not patentable. But once you become synthetic, it is patentable. So all these little tweaks and changes that they're making are all patentable. And so they can make money off of it. And eventually the laws would not apply to us.
Wow. I think that that my audience knows about, or we've heard the terms, the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies. What is the wireless body area network?
So, like we were talking, we're being infiltrated with all of these technological devices, even ones at the molecular and atomic size, and they connect. We're basically nodes in the big, call it the hive system. And that's basically we're being connected to that. And so that in a simple form is what that stands for. Um,
So that we will all be connected through the internet or through some wireless technology. And that's what all of the 5G towers are for, is about integrating the human beings into this whole EMF sort of techno structure, I guess you would call it. And then that's kind of like what does this do to our health? And what is One Health? Because I've heard that term and I wasn't sure what that was.
okay, so One Health basically is the integration. So it used to be just three things. Um, the integration of, well, I guess it still is the three things: integration of animals, humans, and the environment. And that is one of the UN pillars. We have to, we're all interconnected. We're just kumbaya, and there's no difference. Nobody should have superiority. Everybody should be equal, even if you're a bacteria or whatever. But now we're really entering the time when robotic things or mechanical or AI will actually have the rights and you will not have the rights as a original design, because have come to the conclusion that biological life is a biohazard. They want the synthetic digital twin, which is One Health is the program that basically it really started about the 20th century and was gaining really big steam, but it was really 2005 when it started to launch. And there is a One Health group. I can get you that link if you want. I'm part of their working group. They don't know that I I actually work on the other side, but it's very interesting. There's a One Health Congress. There's all sorts of One Health implications that we have going now. The Army back, I would say 10 years ago, adopted One Health philosophy. So it's very common.
And they want to catalog everything and put it on the blockchain so it cannot be manipulated and it can be owned. Who owns it?
I think it's the people up at the top that we don't know their names. We'll never see their faces. They're the ones making the money. I mean, I think of it as Hotel California. You go into blockchain, but you never get out. And I won't do it. And I mean, for me, I'm very uncomfortable because they just informed me that in North Dakota, they're going to start putting all of this blockchain and crypto and holography on my driver's license. And I feel that that's one step. And I'm really praying about what way to go in that, because I mean, just try and drive without it. And I live 2 hours from a city. So that's going to be problematic. But I really think that that's going into a spiritual territory that I really don't want to go in. So, for instance, Dr. James Giordano says that with one of these, he can capture your soul. And he said that for years. And I thought, And then finally the day came and I did dive into the Bible and I did my research into the technology and the scriptures. And in the book of Ezekiel, it does talk about capturing the soul with nets, with nets. And just think about what our earth looks like with all the technological, it almost looks like a net spread over the earth with electromagnetic frequencies.
Yeah, really, that's really, they've been moving towards this whole blockchain thing about to put everything on there so it can't be manipulated or changed. It's the status that it's in, and then it's owned by this whole chain of what this is going to be. And they've made it pretty clear at the World Economic Forum level that they are better than God. They are going to be, create things that are better than God and are more sustainable because, we're real tangible things that you can touch instead of, praying to and worshiping this figment of imagination that's up in the sky somewhere that doesn't even exist. I mean, I've heard, Naval or, Harari, Noah Harari say that, that we're going to create an AI version of the Bible and we're not going to include, we're going to have like real tangible stuff and not fantasize about this God up in the sky. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, we have to be kind of discerning because when I like a year or two ago, I went and dove into the AI Bible, and there is an AI Bible that's this little tiny, almost a holographic Bible, and I listened to this missionary talking about it, and he goes, "I can get this Bible into countries that you can't get a physical Bible into, because it's but then they open it. Don't ask me how, but they open it up and they're able to read the scriptures. So on that hand, it's good. But as far as worshiping the technological gods, and don't forget these technological gods, when you start digging in to the Latin, the Greek, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, they all have the names of gods and goddesses. So when we were talking about One Health, and there's a bridge, and it's called the Golden Gate Bridge,
Hmm.
believe it or not, and it's talked about in occultism. The Masonic order is very familiar with it, but it's also what they used in with during COVID to. So remember, the vaccine had to be kept at these super cold temperatures. So there was a logic gate called a Golden Gate Bridge, and they said by 2025 that we will have solved that. So then the vaccine can be at regular temperatures. And but it is known as the gate to God, the gate to the soul, and it's also very much integrated with Baal worship,
Hmm.
the worship of the big bull. So
So is all of this technology, this traceability, One Health, all of these things, is this an AI directed evolution?
yes, very much directed by AI at this point. It didn't start out that way, but now we are conceding much of the design. If you look up directed evolution, it is a purposeful, you know, replace replacement of the original design with the end, which will be a silicon entity. And so AI, as we go on, it will get even more controlling and give people ideas of how to do it quicker, faster, cheaper, how to make more money off of it, that type of thing.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about AI on this show and other things. We've done, boot camps on AI in healthcare, and I've listened to a lot of experts in the field and listened to their webinars, and it's really kind of frightening where they're kind of going with this. So I think that, we've already covered so much material that just like make your head spin because it's new and it's things that people don't generally talk about. So I think this is a good place to take a break. So hold that thought right there. We're going to take a short break to hear from our sponsors and for AmericaOutloud.news and for the Tenpenny Files. America Out Loud Talk Radio plays the Tenpenny Files on iHeartRadio network daily, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also listen to it anywhere in the world by using their media player when you go to americaoutloud.news. And again, you can find it on iHeartRadio. If you've missed any of these great thought-provoking conversations, you can find the Tenpenny Files on Spotify, Pandora, Apple, TuneIn, iHeart Virtual Studio, and on my platform, which is dr10penny.com. If that's our main website, where you can find out all about me and all the different things that we're involved in, all the things that we do. And if you want to listen to the podcast there's a podcast tab that you can just click on that podcast tab. You can see all the podcasts that we've done, not only on americaoutloud.news, but previously before we joined this illustrious, this huge platform. So, and we also post them on my Substack at dr10penny.substack.com. Because there's so many great books and documentaries and so little time to read and to watch. This show is meant to maximize your time, jumpstart your interest. We've got great messages coming from our sponsors that keep us on the air. We hope that you'll listen, sit tight. We will be right back. Zeolite is a detox spray. We work specifically with a company called Touchstone Essentials. They are an incredible company. We've been working with them now for several years. And zeolite is a mineral that goes through your body like a one-way basket. It will clean out heavy metals such as arsenic and mercury, aluminum, cadmium, and it hooks onto those metals from a one-way perspective. So once it's bound, it goes out through your urine or your stools and doesn't get redeposited in other places. Everybody needs to have a detox product in their life, and this one is so easy to use and it's so safe. You can take it when you're pregnant, you can take it when you're nursing, you can give it to little children, you can even give it to infants, and quite frankly, I give it to my dog. I actually put a little bit of the zeolite in his water because until we all stop living in a toxic world, we all need to get some of those extra toxicities out, the heavy metals, the persistent organic pollutants, the things that are floating through the air, the different things that we come in touch with in our environment. And we are a big fan of zeolite from Touchstone Essentials. We've been a big fan of their products for several years. Go to dr10penny.com/detox to get your first bottle of zeolite spray for $50 off.
Well, only when the government bows to the people will America become great again. This is Malcolm Out Loud here. Join me in pushing back against censorship, my fellow Americans. Right at the top of americaoutloud.news are the words, many voices, one freedom, united in the First Amendment. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. americaoutloud.news, liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're talking with Celeste Solum about how health, technology, and governance have become one system. Let me tell you a little bit more about Celeste. Celeste is her strategic career path has taken her into medical industrial complex. Specifically, she used to work for FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, for many years. Today, Celeste is the consummate investigator, gathering evidence and analyzing data to uncover little-known facts and make actionable solutions. She is a broadcaster, author, scientific photojournalist, and she's also skilled in environmental medicine and organic farming. How on the earth she has time to do all those things just blows me away. Every week, Celeste reviews more than 150 scientific journals across an entire spectrum of scientific disciplines and brings groundbreaking news through her broadcast and through the webinars that she puts together. Celeste Solum researches, her angle for research is from the Bible and scientific perspective, knowing that the solution to all of our problems can be found in the Bible. So Celeste, who are the new humans, and what is the AI-generated world going to look like when we get to that point?
So we talked a little bit about the world. So let's go do that first, because I'll bring it back to the synthetic virtual twin. That is a synthetic world that is a synthetic artificial world that imitates the real world, but it's devoid of God. So there is no God there. Now the new humans are the new generations. The military said they weren't going to be born till about 2030, but I do believe that in 2020 they did start that process of that biohybridization, and these children will be interconnected. They will have be enhanced. They will have superhuman like powers, many different things that you and I don't have, and they will be open to it. They're not going to question um, or think about the old, what was of value in the old days compared to the new. They'll be very forward thinkers. But most of all, for me, I wonder, because these are not original design, are these original design humans with a soul, or have they been altered to the degree that they no longer have a soul? So that is something that I really ponder in my own heart. And when I look at the technology and what's unfolding before us, I don't want to cross that line myself and endanger. But, I'm still an original design person. I think about these little ones. They're coming into the world. Maybe they were designed in a lab and really have very little of what normal that you and I maybe grew up with.
I've seen some of these science fiction little videos that, so many videos of what you see that are futuristic are, predictive programming. They're getting you used to it. And they've got like a room that may have anywhere from 20 to 50 pods that they are developing little baby humans in these pods, because then women don't have to go through childbirth. They don't have to get stretch marks. They don't have to be inconvenienced by the 9 months of preparing for birth. They just get they get their baby out of a pod. And I saw that recently they just did that. They grew it from a fetus. I think it was a little lamb. It was literally a lamb inside of this pod that it grew to, the size of a lamb, that would be born, that would be at birth. And so these futuristic horror stories aren't so just something from science fiction. I mean, it's things that are really, really happening. And I think that you have a really good point. I mean, if a baby gets to the point where it's grown in a pod and it's not generated by conception inside of a human, and it really wasn't, when conception, I believe that a life begins at the time of conception, and that's when God births you and gives you a soul. What does that really mean for that entity that's coming out of that pod? We don't really know, do we?
Especially what if it's not even it could be an artificial egg, it could be an artificial sperm. We're at that point. It could just be this concoction of chemicals that they put together. So it might not be human in what we might even define as a human, even at the very beginning, at the moment of conception.
You dig into some really scary areas. That's what your research has been for as long as I've known you, and I've known you a lot of years. And you have access to materials and you read voluminously. I mean, 150 articles, that you read every week is a ton of material in a diverse in just places that you kind of pulled this all together. What was the most frightening experience that you've come across? The thing that really just made you gasp and was really kind of scary?
So I have to tell you this. It's quite the story, so I hope we have a few minutes left.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I was in bed, and I knew I had heard about generative AI, and there is something called World Labs. So I went to their site, and there was like a picture, like a flat picture like you might have in your living room. And then you push the button. And I like to do things, well, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I pushed the button. And it panned around, and it walked you around the house. Think of yourself in a real estate thing, and they walk you around the house, the kitchen, the living room, out to the garden. Next thing you know, you're at the beach, and next thing you know that you're in the garden, or in a desert. And I mean, I can feel it. I feel my life force being drawn into this world. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. At the same time that happened, a thing flashed up on my screen and it said, um, we want to we want to take control of all of the sensors of your sensors. And gave you yes or no. And I knew, I knew. And so I wasn't that far down the rabbit hole. So I pushed no. And when I pushed no, it literally on the screen, it threw me out, but I literally went back. I was literally like I had been in an explosion. I wasn't injured, but I felt that tug, that magnetic pull into this generated world by AI, um, that it had expelled me. And I mean, I was shook to my core. I mean, it took me some time to settle down after that.
That's really, that is really scary. You know, Elon Musk is building a lot of Android robots and, you know, I've heard him talking, I've heard some videos where he said that in the near future, every human will have an Android. They'll be at their house and will do all the menial tasks that they don't want to do, like running, vacuuming the carpet or cleaning the dishes or watering the plants. So, and he positions it at a place that will free humans up to have time to just, you know, play on their phone or garden or do whatever they want because they've got an Android assistant that's going to be helping them. But the downside of that is that the AI technology, there are already lots of warnings that are coming out from a lot of people that are in that industry saying that 70–80% of all jobs will be taken over by Android technology. What has your research shown about all of that?
So quite a number of years ago, actually, when the Oculus glasses started coming out, and that would take you into the metaverse or the synthetic virtual realm, um, the addiction factor is like 1,000 times more addictive than fentanyl. So
Wow.
when you use these devices, like even look at how we're sucked up into our computers on our phones. I mean, just try and live a day without any technology. It's not so easy to do these days. Um, but I think about this robotic situation. I won't even have one of those robots, vacuum cleaners in my house because one, it gives me exercise when I have to do dishes or dust or make my bed or whatever I'm doing. It gives me exercise. When I'm out in my garden, it's my passion, it's my joy. I see the butterflies, I listen to the bees humming, I get to look at the sky. And even if there's something up there that I don't particularly care for, I can see beyond it. And that is overcoming trials, which I think are really important. And we're not getting just so integrated into the virtual realm that we can't get ourselves out, that we can be happy without it all. And I think that's really important. And so I won't be taking Elon Musk up on his robot offer, even though it might be convenient. Now, I can see if you are an amputee and you want like a prosthetic of some type. But would I have a prosthetic in my brain? No,
You
I
know,
wouldn't do
speaking
that.
of prosthetics, I saw, you know, talking about the advance of AI and how rapidly it's taking over things. I saw a video. It was I believe he was either he was Oriental, so I'm going to guess Chinese. It was a Chinese boy. He was 12 or 13 years old that had made a prosthetic hand out of using AI and $300. He made this prosthetic hand that had fine motor skills and it was controlled by, there was a strap that went around his head so he could think about like moving his fingers and making a grasp and all these other things. And he made it for $300. If someone is an amputee and they need to get a prosthetic limb on their a prosthetic thing, was saying in this video that can cost up to $450,000. But this 12-year-old with $300 worth of parts had made this prosthetic limb that was really dexterous. And so you can see where this is going, where AI is going to take over manufacturing, all the assembly line work, that we have humans working on assembly lines in car factories and putting things together or packaging and stuff like that. What do you think about the AI generation of taking over so many jobs? I mean, that are employing people all over the world. What do you think about that? Where's that
I
going?
I think it's already impacting most of us. Um, there are now, if you look at YouTube and some of the others, there's AI generated videos that are replacing you and I. And it really, when you look at that, you scan what is available on YouTube or some of the platforms now, much of it is AI. Just try and go to a Adobe stock and get a photograph taken by a real human being. It's almost impossible. And most of us are under a time crunch. So I'm not for it. I think AI has its place, but it should be very limited and not given the freedom. It is actually going to have legal rights that we don't have soon. And that is very troublesome. And I've been at military conferences that have talked about that, the morals and ethics of AI. And they think they're doing a good thing, but if when most of us don't have a job and no money, we can say, oh, we don't like the universal basic income, but if you can't make a job and there's no job, and my heart, I mean, I've lived a good life, but I am concerned about the young people that do not have those economic benefits that you and I have, home ownership, just the going to work and doing, working your way up from the bottom to the top, and those lessons that you learn, because those help you overcome other trials that you might have in your life. I feel sorry for these young people. And then, not to mention, I don't know if you notice it, but I certainly notice it, is that people, especially since 2020, do not reach out to other people anymore. Very rarely. I mean, in the old days, people would call up and they visit with friends and stuff. Everybody is so busy in their own little hamster wheel of technology that they don't reach out, even to family, even to dear friends. And that's troubling to me.
That is troubling. And I think you're right. I mean, we've all seen those pictures that have been floating around the internet for years of four young people sitting around a table. They're sitting around the table, probably looked like they ordered, a Coke or a sandwich or something. And they're all sitting there on their phones. They're all looking down at they're not talking to each other. They're not engaging. And it's almost becoming like a lost art, a lost skill to be able to communicate and interact with each other. In the last few minutes that we have here together, Celeste, I want you to talk about all the work that you've done and the things that are available for people, that people can get your webinars and your books and things off of your website. So, and I know it's voluminous. There's a ton of stuff there. So tell people topics of interest and what they can do to go there and purchase your work to support what you do.
Okay, so my books are on Amazon, just so you know. And my website, finally, after 3 hack jobs this year, it was quite the year. We have a website. We've got a wonderful IT team. So it's celestialreport.com. You can become a subscriber. And so I have weekly community meetings. You can ask any question that you want. There's no sacred cows, nothing off limits. And if I don't know, I might research it for you, or I might tell you, this is where you could find it. But I'm not going to leave you hanging. And I have a private Telegram that we can't do everything, but I might see an article or whatever, and I post it up there on the Telegram to say, so that people get an idea of, what interests me. And that's for subscribers. And I have a public one as well that I'll cover a few things, but not as in depth. Wow, I cover DARPA, government, military, medicine, quantum physics. I am doing a few pieces on quantum physics in the Bible. Very interesting. because I love to see how the Bible fits into this whole situation. Like for instance, this week for my community, I'm going to be talking about Gobekli Tepe and the vibration and the way that it is structured in an array that I'm not altogether certain that this technology that we don't have today didn't come from the ancients. And so I'm going to be going into it. This is cutting edge. I just got not all of the documentation is out, but I've gone through a number of the peer review journals that just came out at the middle of October. So,
And tell people about, you did I think you said 4 or 6 part webinar on weather modification.
yeah, so the beginning of the year, I was really concerned about what all was in the air. And actually, it was spurred by something that you had done on fires. And so because of my background and I know where to source different things, I said people have to know what's in the air and what they can do about it. And so and then that led into going to government military. And then I found this weather modification program that nobody knows anything about. I haven't heard it anywhere. And actually, speaking of AI, on July 4th of this year, they turned our weather over to artificial intelligence. So you can see what's happening on that particular day. The floods happened in Texas, and there was the dragon fire at the Grand Canyon the very day the military turned it over. There's a particular branch of the military, and I go into that at my website. But it covers things that are even talked about in the Bible. So this is truly a prophetic thing, this weather modification program brought forward and is being implemented today.
And tell people again where they can get access to that and what your
That,
website is.
that's celestialreport.com. It's $25 a month. And I do lots of free content, but if you want the details and the sources and everything, it's to be a member is $25 a month. And for members, I don't charge for my webinars. Sometimes I make my webinars available as a product that you can buy and not become a member. But this was such a busy year with having to redo the site 3 times that we haven't caught up with that part yet. So anyway.
What would be your biblically structured take-home message from all this messy stuff that we've been talking about today?
So a lot of people fear. So I love the Proverbs, the beginning of the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And if you turn to that particular proverb, I love the Proverbs. It's very practical, short and sweet for our time. So you don't fear, have your eyes wide open. But when you know that that God is allowing this to happen, and we tend to think, oh, evil's doing it. And I got sorely rebuked in my prayer time about that. Don't say that, because there's no power stronger than God. God is the creator God. And so he allows it, and it's either for judgment, maybe it's for those who have not turned to God to turn to him and seek him with all of their heart. And that's what keeps me going in these days of trials and troubles and things that I really wish that I could just close my eyes, is the word of God, and knowing that we will have eternal life, and it's not going to be the immortal cell line that the technology brings to us. It's going to be by the living God. So that's what I would leave people with.
Well, Celeste, it's always such a pleasure to see you and to hear some of the things that you're researching, because I've known you for a long time, and the things that you dig into are jaw-dropping. And what makes them so important is the fact that they're real. And this isn't science fiction, and you're reading this from peer-reviewed published literature, and you're digging into government documents that have already documented all this stuff. So it's like hidden in plain sight, if you just open your eyes and look. And your deep dives into all of this material, it's scary because it's real. It's not It's not somewhere in the future. It's now. It's happening now, because you can trace it from, 10, 20, 30 years ago, even more, of where these things are happening from. And I find it really eye-opening. A lot of these conversations that I've been having now on the Tenpenny Files, of people that have dug into places like our educational system, our financial system, our AI system, all the things like you've talked about, weather modification, and all of the different traceability things and the different pillars. It's really, when you see what's actually happening, the most important place where you can go is make sure your life is right with Jesus and the Lord. And I know that there's probably mixed faith people that are listening to this show that are, Catholics or Hindus or Muslims, whatever your faith is. These shows come to you from my perspective, which is a Christian faith. And I know that Celeste shares that, and so do a lot of the other speakers that we have, because time is short. Whatever we do on this planet, even if we live to be, 200 years old, it's still a nanosecond compared to what eternity is. So making sure that your life is right with God, and you make your religion, your spirituality real to you, is really, really important. In my perspective, it would be make your relationship and your walk with Jesus and God, from a Christian perspective. That's my perspective, and I hope that you'll share that with me. So with that, I want to close out with one of my favorite verses from the Bible. I close all of my podcasts with, whether they are live or pre-recorded, which is Romans 12:12. Rejoice in hope, be patient in trouble, because trouble comes, and be persistent in prayer, because God tells us to pray without ceasing. And remember to lean into God, trust him for everything. He will never let you down. His timeline may not be your timeline, and it may seem like you're praying for something for a really long time and nothing is happening, but it's on God's timeline that we have to learn to live. And that's what patience and faith is all about. So I'll see you here tomorrow, or the next time at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on AmericaOutloud.news and the iHeartRadio network. We hope that you're listening on one of those stations, or you can find it on any of the podcast platforms, your favorite podcast platforms, such as Spotify and Apple and iTunes. And you can find it at drtenpenny.com under the podcast tab, or you can watch on my Substack, which is drtenpenny.substack.com. It's free. Please sign up, because signing up for that, it's free, helps us to promote it and get the information out more. My Substacks are always free, because I don't believe in paywalls on my Substacks, because if I'm going to take the time to write it, and usually the things I write take hours of work to put together, I want you to read it. And I'm going to hide it behind a paywall. Then same is true also for my Sunday my Sunday Substack, which is Tenpenny Walk with God.substack.com. It's my Sunday inspirational message. It's kind of my give back. And you can also find my book on our website, which is Zero Accountability in a Failed System: How Big Pharma Weaponized Vaccines, Public Health, and the Law. Now, if you've been in this health freedom fight for a long time, you're still going to find things in there that you haven't read anywhere else before. If you're new to this topic, it's going to really, really enlighten you. People have been telling me it reads really well, kind of like a suspense thriller. It's not just a dry medical book. And so you can find that on our website at drtenpenny.com/0. And you can also follow me in social media, which is on X and on Instagram. My handle on both those places is at BusyDRT, Busy Dr. T. So with that, have a great day, the rest of your day, everyone. We'll see you the next time at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Tenpenny Files. Have a good day. Goodbye, and God bless.